And happy whatever day of the week it is for you folks. This is Mike Jenkins back with episode 14 of the She-Ra Comprehensive Review Series. And today we're talking about SweetBee. SweetBee is the honey of a guide of the Wave 2 Princess of Power toy line. She was released in 1986, and that's Wave 2. The vintage SweetBee figure is one of the flyers, as I call it, of the Great Rebellion. You had Angela was the first flyer, and then you had SweetBee and Flutterina. And all three of these characters share the great position of being guides for She-Ra. It's a more gentle way of calling them spies, so they can fly around and see things from high vantage points. And SweetBee is notable in this position. In many of her incarnations, her position as a scout is definitely taken full advantage of. Her wings can alternate. There's two sides to the wings. They're held on with Velcro, so you have the one side which has a sort of orangey peachish color here that actually glows in the dark, and then the other side of the wings is more of a glittery gold type of coloring, which is akin to her choker and her belt there. So that's one of the fun things about her. Her antenna as well on the vintage figure glows in the dark. This figure shares parts with Catra and Double Trouble. She reuses Catra's bodice, and she reuses Double Trouble's legs and boots. So that's one of the things about not only the Princess of Power line, but the Masters of the Universe line. They did an awesome job of reusing parts, recoloring them, and even though you can look at one figure and look at another, there's just something about the coloring and the accessories that just makes them jump out and makes them their own unique thing. And SweetBee is definitely that. In her prototype, SweetBee's boots are clearly She-Ra's boots reused. That design actually went on to influence SweetBee's cartoon depiction. But as the figure continued developing, she would go on to use Double Trouble's legs and boots instead. Interestingly enough, SweetBee uses Double Trouble's legs and boots instead of She-Ra's, and Entrapta reuses Castaspella's boots instead of Double Trouble's. So there was some interesting swapping going on, but even Entrapta has a prototype, and she has some depictions in fiction that clearly show that she was at one point meant to reuse Double Trouble's boots, but that went on to be used by SweetBee instead. SweetBee was introduced in the mini comic A Born Champion, where she scouts and finds Catra's triplex stronghold. In the UK comic story The Book of Potions, she serves as a scout as well, finding the trail of Shadow Weaver, Catra, and Grizzlor. In the 1986 Ladybird story, She-Ra and the Golden Goose, SweetBee works with Flutterina as one of She-Ra's scout flyers. She's also featured in the She-Ra magazine. In issue number 4, the story Trickery of Bloom, SweetBee gets to scold Catra after the wicked feline replaces SweetBee's seeds with magical throne-growing weeds. SweetBee also came packaged with Crystal Sundancer, and was billed as the daytime guardian of Crystal Castle as a result. She is then packaged with She-Ra and Perfuma as the defenders of good. In the Filmation cartoon series, SweetBee appears twice in the episodes SweetBee's Home and Assault on the Hive. In the series, she hails from the race of bee people, not to be confused with Buzz-Off's race of Adrenids. They're a separate race. The bee people are in search of a new home after their planet is destroyed by a supernova. In the cartoon series, SweetBee has one of the rare distinctions of being able to romantically capture He-Man, as opposed to all of the other women in the series who he seems to be able to slough off. Teela is clearly and definitely intended to be He-Man's love interest long term, but that doesn't mean that he never has quick little crushes, and SweetBee has the honor of being one of those. Frosta doesn't seem to like that, but hey, what can you do? Here is the vintage action fashion doll for SweetBee, released in 1986. She comes with a shield, her antenna, her dress, which is attached to the choker. She has her reversible, detachable wings, and she came with a yellow comb. My figure I bought off of eBay, and I bought many of my Princess of Power figures off of eBay. The only figure that I have from childhood is She-Ra herself, but much of my Princess of Power collection came off of eBay or even vintage toy stores around town. She has the typical articulation. She has the waist, which I believe on these figures, as time progresses, the spring-loaded action waist feature gets worn down. And I've noticed that on many of my She-Ra figures that they don't have that battle waist feature that some have and then some don't. I'm not quite sure about that, so if anyone out there knows if the action waist battle punch feature was standard with the pop figures and it just wears out over time, let me know. I know that my Masters of the Universe figures have that action waist twist, and even 30 years later, that feature's still there. But I've noticed with the pop figures that some of them just don't have that. You have articulation at the waist, but it's not the retractable spring-loaded feature going on there. So, but she does have the rotating head. I'm not sure if there are other versions of SweetBee that have the ball jointed head. This particular figure does not. It only pivots from left to right. She has the standard articulation in the arms. We did the waist, and then of course she has the articulation in the legs. And this is the back of the figure. We see how those wings are reversible. In the middle you can see the Velcro if you detach the wings. Oh, I don't want to mess up the hair. Yeah, let's do this here. Well, before I reattach the wings, you can see how the choker on her neck is attached to the dress. And I'm going to put the wings back on. So there is an alternate posing option for SweetBee. You can have the glittery gold wings, or you can have the glow-in-the-dark wings. It's up to you. Her color scheme is an interesting situation. In the show, she has a darker color scheme. She has the oranges and the yellows are darker, and her hair is more of a reddish tone. I'm suspecting that the hair color may have resulted because they wanted to make sure that She-Ra was the only blonde on the show. So anytime a figure or a character was developed and she had blonde hair, most of the time they had to say, oh no, we have to switch that. Perfuma made it through without having her hair changed. But Angela and SweetBee here both had their hair color changed. And that's just a suspicion of mine. I don't know if that's officially the case, but I just find it interesting how they go on and they decide to change the hair color. SweetBee's hair here as a toy is more of a deep yellow versus a blonde, but she does fall into the blonde category. But her Filmation counterpart is a redhead. So that's just something I wanted to note there. Here is Masters of the Universe Classics SweetBee. She was released as part of the Club Etheria mini subscription. And she comes with an alternate head. I'll just show this head here. I'll have still pictures, but she comes with an alternate head. She comes with her bee gun, her shield, and her wings, which do have articulation. I'm displaying her here with her bounty hunter Samus Aran Boba Fett looking helmet, because this is right from the show. This is how she pilots her scout ship to Etheria, and I actually often pose her with this head versus her standard head, and it's easier with the wings. Her hair is sculpted in a way that there are these holes here so that the wings can be inserted. It doesn't look bad, but I just think it's cool to have the Samus Aran Boba Fett type helmet. She has the standard articulation, so her head pivots. It's on a ball joint, of course. She does have the same choker as she does with the vintage figure. She has the shoulder articulation, the bicep, elbow. My joints are pretty tight. The wrist has articulation. She does have articulation at the waist, and her dress is soft enough, pliable enough, so that she can do splits, and she's got hip articulation, the knee articulation. She does not have a boot swivel, but she does have the ankle. And I'll show you the back. Her wings are on a ball joint, so you can rotate the wings up and down, and you can pull the wings out and lay them flat. So she takes most after her Filmation appearance, since she has enough going on with her her bodice and her boots. Since she has enough going on in her bodice and boots, she doesn't take much detail on her gauntlets there. For all points and purposes, she's pretty honorable. She honors her vintage figure pretty well. So there are some details on the vintage figure, on the gauntlets, that weren't brought over, but I don't think those details are going to be missed. So that is SweetBee. Join me next time for Swiftwind. Swiftwind will be our first fully covered beast in this review series. I'm not sure how many beasts I'm going to do, particularly because there isn't a vintage versus Masters of the Universe Classic lineup for many of the beasts in the line. So, and of course, I don't have a lot of the beasts in my collection. So until I get them in my collection, I can't really do the videos. So Swiftwind, of course, was a must-have in my collection, and so I do have a vintage Swiftwind as well as a classic Swiftwind. So join me next time for episode 15, where we will be reviewing Swiftwind. And until then, ta-ta for now.